We're putting you in a home, Arthur. It's for your own good. My son-in-law, Mark, said it like he was ordering takeout. Cold, final. My daughter, Sarah, my own flesh and blood, just stared at the floor. They thought I was a weak old man, easily broken, ready to be discarded. They were about to learn that this old carpenter doesn't just build things. I demolish them too. If this story finds you, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It helps to know I'm not alone in this world. My name is Arthur Hayes, and this nightmare started just 24 hours ago, with the smell of freedom. The smell hit me first. New leather and pine sealant. It filled my lungs. It was a scent I hadn't realized I was starving for until that very moment. The scent of a promise kept. I stood in the bright showroom. The lights glared off the aluminum siding. A 28-foot Wanderer Deluxe, gleaming perfect. I ran my hand over the smooth, polished countertop of the kitchenette. Solid. Real. It was everything we dreamed of, and it was finally mine. "She's a beauty, Mr. Hayes," the salesman said. He clapped me on the shoulder. His name tag said Rick. He was young, eager, smelled like cheap coffee and commission. "You sign this last line, and she's all yours. Ready for the open road." I picked up the pen. My hand trembled. It's a carpenter's hand. Rough, calloused from 45 years of building homes for other people. Today, it shook. This wasn't just a purchase. This was a pilgrimage. Mary would have loved this, I whispered. The ink blurred slightly as I signed my name, Arthur Hayes. My wife, Mary, passed away 2 years ago. Cancer. It gutted me, broke me in places I didn't know could be broken. We were a team. I built the houses. She handled the books. Our dream was simple. Retire. Sell the big house. Buy a trailer. See the country. We had a map tucked away in the study, covered in little red circles. The Grand Canyon. Yellowstone. The California coast. Every place we wanted to see. But cancer didn't care about our map. It didn't care about our plans. It moved fast. Cruel. It stole her strength, but never her spirit. In those final weeks, she made me promise. Her hand was small in mine, frail. "Arthur," she'd said, her voice weak but firm, her eyes locked onto mine, fierce. "Don't you dare sit in that house and wait to die." She squeezed my hand. "You go. You see those places. For both of us." I promised, but after she was gone, the silence in the house was deafening. I just kept working. Work was safe. Grief was a wilderness I didn't want to enter. Last month, I turned 66. I was installing a kitchen island. My knees ached. My back was stiff. I caught my reflection in the stainless steel fridge. I looked old, tired. I realized I was running out of time. If I didn't honor our dream now, I never would. "Congratulations," the salesman boomed. He handed me a small set of keys. They felt heavy in my palm, significant, like the weight of the future. A future I thought was finally starting. Driving it home felt strange. I'd bought a heavy-duty truck just for this. It handled the weight easily, but I kept checking the mirrors. That gleaming silver bullet was attached to my bumper. It felt like I was towing my future behind me, and I had no idea someone was already planning to unhitch it. I parked it in the driveway of the house. Mary and I built 40 years ago, the house where we raised our daughter Sarah. I spent the afternoon stocking it, making it a home. I put Mary's favorite quilt on the bed, the one with the sunflower pattern. She always said sunflowers found the light, no matter how dark the day. I hung a little wooden birdhouse I'd carved for her near the door. It felt right. I was finally ready. My first trip was planned for the end of the week. I took a picture of the trailer gleaming under the late afternoon sun. I sent it to Sarah. "Finally did it," I texted. "Mary would be so happy. Come over tomorrow and I'll give you the grand tour." Sarah replied almost immediately, a thumbs-up emoji. That was it. Just an emoji. No excitement. No shared joy. A small pang of disappointment hit me. Sarah had been distant lately. It started slowly. Missed phone calls. Excuses for not coming over. Ever since she married Mark 3 years ago, things had changed. Mark, the name soured in my mouth. He was an investment banker. He wore suits that cost more than my monthly mortgage. He was always polite. Too polite. But his eyes were cold. Calculating. He looked at you like you were an asset. Or a liability. Lately, I felt like a liability. He often made comments about my house. We were having dinner last month. He wouldn't stop looking at the crown molding. This neighborhood is rapidly appreciating, Arthur, he'd said, swirling his expensive wine. You're sitting on a gold mine. He paused. It needs to be properly leveraged. Leveraged. I hated that word. I remembered another conversation. A few weeks ago, I asked Mark for advice on my retirement accounts. Simple stuff. He brushed me off. Don't worry about it, Arthur. It's complicated. I'll handle it when the time comes. He treated me like a child, a foolish old man. The disrespect was subtle. But it was there, growing like a weed. I tried to like him for Sarah's sake, but I never trusted him. He smelled like ambition and cheap cologne, and something rotten underneath. I went to bed that night in my own house. But I didn't sleep well. I dreamed of the open road. Mary was in the passenger seat, pointing at the mountains. But the road kept crumbling. The mountains kept disappearing. I woke up before the alarm. A knot tightened in my stomach. Something felt wrong. The air in the house felt too still, too quiet, the calm before the storm. I was brewing coffee. The aroma filled the kitchen. Then I heard it. A car door slammed outside. Hard, aggressive. I looked out the window. It wasn't Sarah's sedan. It was Mark's expensive, black SUV, parked aggressively close to my new truck, blocking the driveway, blocking my escape route. Both Mark and Sarah were walking toward the house. They weren't smiling. This wasn't a social call. This felt like an ambush. I opened the door before they could knock. I forced a cheerful tone. Morning. You're early. Coffee's on. Sarah looked at her shoes. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Her face was pale, drawn. She looked like she hadn't slept. Mark, however, looked directly at me. His face was set, hard. The knot in my stomach tightened into a fist. Arthur, we need to talk, Mark said. He didn't wait for an invitation. He stepped past me into the living room. He walked into the center of the room as if he owned the place. Sarah followed him silently. She hovered near the doorway like a ghost. My daughter, a ghost in my own home. The disrespect stung, but it was just the first blow. Okay, I said slowly, closing the door. The click of the lock felt loud, final. What's this about? Are the kids okay? Liam and Emma? I reached for anything normal. Anything to ground me. The kids are fine, Mark said curtly. He didn't sit down. He stood, dominating the space. He gestured towards the window, towards the gleaming trailer. My dream, this, he said, his voice dripping with contempt. However, is not fine. I stared at him, genuinely confused. What do you mean? It's the trailer. I told you I was buying it. We saw the picture, Mark said. He paced the room now, like a shark circling its prey. And frankly, Arthur, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous? Ridiculous? My promise to Mary? He stopped and looked me up and down, assessing my worth, finding it lacking. A reckless impulse purchase. Excuse me? My voice was tight. The coffee cup trembled in my hand. This is my money, my decision. Is it? Mark challenged. Is it really your decision when it impacts the entire family? Impacts the family? How? Dad. Sarah finally spoke. She was wringing her hands, a nervous habit she had since she was a child. Her voice was barely a whisper. Mark and I were worried about you. Worried, the word hung in the air, heavy and false. Worried? Why? I looked at her, pleading for her to look at me. I'm happier than I've been in 2 years. She still stared at the floor. My heart started to crack. She was choosing a side. And it wasn't mine. You're 66, Arthur, Mark interrupted. His tone was condescending, like he was explaining simple math to a child. You have no business hauling a 30-foot death trap across the country by yourself. Death trap? This was my freedom. Your reflexes aren't what they used to be, he continued. Relentless. It's irresponsible. It's dangerous. This is my dream, Mark. I snapped, anger surging through me. Mary's dream. I'm perfectly capable of driving. I saw Dr. Reed last week. She agrees. My physical was perfect. Dr. Evelyn Reed had been our family doctor for 20 years. She knew me. She knew my health. But Mark just smirked. A cold, calculating smirk. Dr. Reed might be overly optimistic, Mark said, his voice smooth as silk. I actually called her office yesterday, Arthur. Expressed my concerns. My blood ran cold. He called my doctor? Behind my back? The audacity. The violation. I told her about your recent behavior, Mark continued. Your confusion. Confusion. What confusion? He stepped closer, invading my space. You get confused sometimes, Arthur. You forget names. You pointed towards the kitchen. You left the stove on last month. The blood rushed to my face. He was twisting things, making me sound incompetent, building his case against me. I do not get confused. I roared. I forgot the stove once. Once in 45 years. And what about the mix-up with the utility bills? Mark pressed. Relentless, his eyes gleaming with predatory focus. Paying the electric bill twice. Forgetting the water bill? He knew exactly where to strike, exactly how to hurt me. That was right after Mary died. I yelled, the pain raw and exposed. I was grieving. That was 2 years ago. He was using my grief against me, weaponizing my sorrow. The cruelty was staggering. And Sarah just stood there, silent, complicit. Mark sighed dramatically. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. He looked at Sarah as if to say, see, he's losing it. And Sarah nodded. That small nod was a betrayal deeper than any words. It shattered me. Look, Arthur, Mark said, his tone shifting to business. Final. We've thought this through. We have a solution that works for everyone. A responsible solution. He walked over to the mantelpiece. The mantel I had carved myself. He picked up a photo of Mary and me on our wedding day. We looked so young, so hopeful. He looked at it with detached curiosity, like it was a trinket in a thrift store. Then he placed it back down, slightly askew. The casual disrespect was intentional. A message: he was rearranging my life, and he didn't care what he broke in the process. And then he dropped the bomb. We're putting the house on the market next week, he announced. He said it like he was discussing the weather, calm.
Matter of fact.
I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. The air rushed out of my lungs. I couldn't breathe. The room spun slightly. You're what? My voice was strangled. This is my house. I built this house. Mary and I couldn't finish the sentence. The memories overwhelmed me. 40 years of laughter, tears, fights, and forgiveness. All erased with one sentence. This house was Mary. Every nail, every board, every memory. It's too big for you, Sarah whispered. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't stop him. It's too much upkeep, Dad. And the money. It always came back to the money, with Mark. The money is essential for your long-term care, Mark finished smoothly. His voice adopted that tone of false sincerity again, the one that made my skin crawl. Long-term care, he was talking about a home. A cage. We've found a wonderful place for you, Mark said, smiling now. A victor's smile. He pulled a glossy brochure from his jacket pocket. Golden Oaks Retirement Community. Golden Oaks. I knew the name. It was where people went to wait, to fade away, to die. It's top of the line, he continued, selling it like a timeshare. Activities. Meals prepared for you. Nurses on staff. 24/7. You won't have to worry about a thing. They had planned this. Researched it. They had brochures. They had discussed me like a problem to be solved. A burden to be disposed of. Behind my back. My daughter. My own flesh and blood. The betrayal was so deep, it paralyzed me. I am not going to a retirement home, I roared. The shock gave way to pure blinding rage. I'm going traveling. I'm leaving this week. I pointed to the door. Get out of my house. Mark didn't flinch. His eyes were cold, dead. No, you're not, he said, his voice calm but firm. He walked towards me and held out his hand, palm up, demanding, entitled. I need the keys, Arthur, the truck and the trailer. I stared at his outstretched hand. Soft, uncalloused, the hand of a man who had never built anything in his life. Go to hell! Mark's expression darkened. The mask slipped. The monster underneath revealed itself. Don't make this difficult, he warned, his voice low and dangerous. The decision has been made. Sarah agrees. He glanced at Sarah. She nodded miserably. We are doing this for your own good. My own good? I spat the words out. You're selling my home and locking me away so you can control my money. That's what this is about. I saw it clearly now. It wasn't about my safety. It was about my assets. That's absurd, Mark scoffed, but his eyes flickered. Atelip. He was lying. We are ensuring your security. You're ensuring yours. I pointed a trembling finger at him. I know you, Mark. I know the market is unstable. I know you're over-leveraged. I remembered overhearing him on the phone a month ago. Frantic, desperate, talking about margins and calls. Mentioning a name. That deal with David Chen went south, didn't it? I accused. Mark froze. His eyes widened in shock. He didn't know I knew. The color drained from his face. You've been living beyond your means, and now you need a bailout, I pressed, energized by his fear. You need the money from my house, and you need it now. I hit a nerve. His eyes flashed with anger. Pure venom. He quickly masked it, replacing it with a look of pity. It was worse than the anger. Your paranoia and aggression are exactly why we're doing this. Arthur, he said, shaking his head sadly, you're clearly not thinking rationally. You're having an episode. He was making me sound crazy. Building his case. Solidifying his control. Lenit stepped closer, looming over me, using his height, his youth, against me. The keys. Now. Don't make me take them. His threat hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. He was threatening me, physically, and I knew, with a sickening certainty, that he would do it. Dad, please, Sarah begged. Tears streamed down her face now. Don't fight him, please. She looked terrified. Not of me, of him. Golden Oaks is a nice place, really, she pleaded. They have a garden. A garden. They were trading my freedom for a patch of grass. The sight of my daughter, my little girl, siding with this man against me, shattered something deep inside me. The betrayal was so profound it paralyzed me. The fight drained out of me, leaving behind a hollow emptiness. I felt tired, so very tired. 66 years felt like 100 in that moment. Defeated, broken, I reached into my pocket. I pulled out the keys to the trailer and the truck. I stared at them for a moment, the symbol of my freedom. Now the symbol of my defeat. I dropped them into Mark's outstretched hand. His fingers closed around them instantly. A fist closing around my heart. Good, he said. A flicker of triumph in his eyes. He had won. That's very sensible, Arthur. He thought it was over. He was wrong. Mark turned to Sarah. His tone immediately shifted back to business. We need to clear out the trailer. Get his personal items out. We have a lot to load. Then he looked back at me, his eyes cold and dismissive. I was no longer a person. I was an obstacle. Removed. And then he delivered the final blow. A twist of the knife. I never saw coming. Now, about the trailer, Mark said, jingling the keys cheerfully. The sound made me sick to my stomach. It's fortunate timing, actually. He smiled. A genuine smile this time. It chilled me to the bone. Sarah and I have been meaning to take the kids on a vacation, he continued. We were going to rent one, but this is much better, and it's brand new. I stared at him, dumbfounded. They weren't just stopping my dream. They were stealing it. Hijacking it for a family vacation. You're taking my trailer? The words were choked. Barely audible. We're borrowing it, Mark corrected, emphasizing the word. We leave tomorrow morning. We're heading up the coast for a few weeks. That actually works out perfectly. He paused, delivering the final cruelty with casual ease. Golden Oaks is on the way, he said. We can drop you off there tomorrow. Saves us an extra trip. Efficient, cold, heartless. My life reduced to an errand on their vacation route. He walked out the door, jingling the keys. My keys. Sarah lingered. Her eyes filled with a mixture of guilt and fear. "Dad, I'm so sorry," she whispered. "Sorry." The word was useless. Empty. "He insists," she continued, wringing her hands again. "He says it's the only way. He says we need this. Things have been tight, tight." An understatement, I was sure. She turned and fled, leaving me alone, in the house I built. Surrounded by the echoes of a life that was being dismantled around me, I stood in the living room for a long time. The silence was suffocating. I looked around the room, the bookshelves I'd built into the alcove, the crown molding I'd meticulously installed, the fireplace, where we'd hung stockings every Christmas. It was all being taken away. I was being erased. I sank into my armchair, the one that still held the faint scent of Mary's lavender perfume. The shock was wearing off, replaced by a cold, hard anger, and beneath that, a profound, aching sadness. How could Sarah do this? How could she let Mark manipulate her so completely? Did she really believe I was incompetent, or was she just too scared to fight him? I didn't know which was worse. I spent the day in a daze. I didn't eat. I didn't pack. Why pack for a prison? I just sat and remembered. Around noon, a car pulled up outside, a sleek silver sedan. A woman got out, sharp suit, high heels, clipboard in hand. She started walking around my house, taking pictures, measuring the yard. I went outside. "Can I help you?" She looked startled. "Who, Mr. Hayes? I'm Brenda Miles, real estate agent." She flashed a bright, artificial smile. "Mark asked me to do a preliminary assessment for the listing." Brenda Miles. She looked like a shark in a suit. The audacity. Mark wasn't wasting any time. "The house is not for sale," I said, my voice cold. Brenda chuckled nervously. Right, not yet. But Mark said you were moving to Golden Oaks. Smart move. This market is hot. We'll get top dollar for this old place." She gestured around the yard. "We'll need to clear out some of this clutter, maybe repaint the trim. Maximize the curb appeal." Clutter? She was talking about Mary's rose bushes. "Get off my property," I said, my voice low and dangerous. Brenda Miles stepped back. The smug look vanished. "Mark said you might be difficult," she muttered, scribbling something on her clipboard. She scurried back to her car and drove away. But I knew she'd be back. The vultures were already circling, and Mark had invited them. As evening fell, the headlights of Mark's SUV swept across the living room wall. They were back. I didn't move. I didn't want to see them. But I could hear them. They were outside, loading the trailer, my trailer. "It's perfect," I heard Mark say. His voice boomed with satisfaction. "Plenty of room for the kids' bikes and the inflatable raft." He laughed. A loud, jarring sound in the quiet night. "And it saved us at least $5,000 on a rental. David Chen is going to be furious when he sees the pictures. He thought he ruined me. Chen again." The name echoed in my mind. Proof of his desperation. I heard Sarah murmur something indistinct. Her voice strained. "Don't be sentimental, Sarah," Mark admonished her. His voice sharp. "He doesn't need it. We do." He paused. "And frankly, the money we saved will help cover the deposit at Golden Oaks. Stop worrying. It's handled. They were using my own money to lock me away." The audacity was breathtaking. "Now help me check the hitch," he ordered. She obeyed, silent, compliant. They were out there for hours, loading their things, their lives, into my dream. I watched their shadows move behind the blinds. Their excitement was a mockery of my despair. And then I saw it. Sarah, carrying Mary's sunflower quilt, the one I had so carefully placed on the bed. She walked towards the garage and tossed it, carelessly, onto the dusty floor. Like a pile of dirty rags, the disrespect was intentional. A clear message. My past. My memories. Mary meant nothing to them. That quilt had kept Mary warm during chemo. It was one of the last things I had of her, and they treated it like trash. That was the moment the sadness burned away, leaving only the cold, hard anger. They were erasing Mary too. And that I could not forgive. When they finally left, the silence returned. Heavier, colder, I looked at the fireplace again. The stone hearth felt cold. I thought about Mark's smug face, his overwhelming sense of entitlement. He thought I was just a weak old man, easily pushed aside, easily discarded. He forgot I spent 45 years building things, and I knew how to take them apart too. A flicker of determination sparked in the darkness. I wasn't going to let them erase me. I wasn't going to Golden Oaks. Mary's words echoed in my mind. Arthur, you hope for the best, but you plan for the worst, especially when it comes to money, and especially when it comes to Mark. She saw through him from the beginning. She was always the smart one. And thankfully, I had listened. I stood up, my resolve hardening. My back straightened. My knees still ached, but my mind was clear, sharper than it had been in years. I walked over to the fireplace. I ran my fingers along the brickwork, the rough texture familiar, under my touch. I had built this fireplace myself. I knew every secret it held. I found what I was looking for, a single brick, slightly looser than the others. Just above the mantel, Mark had stood right in front of it, oblivious. He always underestimated me. That was his first mistake. I pulled the brick out. Behind it was a small, fireproof safe. Embedded in the wall, I spun the combination dial, the tumblers clicking into place. A satisfying sound. Security. Control. I opened the heavy metal door. Inside were several thick folders, the documentation of my life's work. My insurance policy. I pulled them out and spread them across the coffee table. The weapons I would use to fight back. I picked up the phone and called Robert. Robert Jenkins. My lawyer, my closest friend for over 30 years. He handled the incorporation of my business. He handled Mary's will. He was the only person I trusted completely. The phone rang 3 times. Arthur? His voice was gruff with sleep. It's nearly midnight. Is everything all right? No, Robert, it's not. My voice trembled, the emotion breaking through. They're trying to put me away. I explained everything. The trailer, the house, Golden Oaks, the ambush, the threats, the real estate agent, Brenda Miles, Mark's mention of David Chen. Robert listened silently, the only sound his measured breathing. When I finished, there was a long pause. That snake, Robert finally said, his voice tight with anger. Wide awake now. I warned you about Mark, Arthur. I told you he was circling your assets. I know, I sighed, the exhaustion creeping back in. But Sarah loved him. I thought she would protect me. I thought wrong. He's manipulated her, Robert said, his voice softening with sympathy. He's isolated her, convinced her that you're a burden. He understood. He always understood. He's making a calculated play for your assets, Arthur, Robert continued, his lawyer brain kicking in. By putting you in Golden Oaks and claiming you're incapable, he's setting the stage to challenge your competency. He's trying to activate his power of attorney through Sarah. It was a hostile takeover of my life. I figured as much, I said, looking at the documents on the table, the folders that held the key to my freedom. But he's going to be very disappointed. Why? Robert asked, confused. Did you follow my advice? Did you set it up like we discussed? The irrevocable trust? I did, I said, small smile touching my lips. 2 years ago, right after Mary passed. The paperwork is right here. The contingency plan, the one I hoped I would never have to use. Thank God, Robert breathed. The relief evident in his voice. Then he can't touch it. He has no idea what he's walking into. And Robert, I added, I need you to look into David Chen. Mark is terrified of him. I think Chen holds the key to Mark's financial collapse. Consider it done, Robert said. I have contacts in the financial sector. We'll expose him, Arthur. We'll expose everything. We talked for another hour, finalizing the plan. Robert was hesitant at first, worried about the fallout. Arthur, he said gently, if you do this, the relationship with your daughter might be damaged beyond repair. This will expose Mark in a way that she cannot ignore. He paused. Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared to lose her? I looked at the photo of Sarah as a little girl. Gap-toothed smile, innocent joy. Then I thought of the woman who had stood in my living room that morning, refusing to meet my eyes, as her husband dismantled my life. That relationship is already broken, Robert, I said, my voice heavy with grief. I'm just salvaging what's left of my life. I looked at the photo of Mary, and I have to protect her legacy. If this story is hitting close to home, if you've ever felt underestimated or betrayed, please hit the like button and subscribe. It helps more than you know, because what happened next changed everything. All right, Robert said, his voice firming with resolve. I'm with you, Arthur. I'll contact Officer Miller first thing in the morning. I'll also reach out to Dr. Reed to get a sworn affidavit about Mark's attempt to manipulate her diagnosis. We'll stop him. Officer Miller was the local precinct captain, a good man, fair. I hung up the phone. The plan was set. Now I just needed to bait the trap. I started organizing the documents. I found the ones I needed. The certified copies Robert had insisted I keep. I placed them in a large manila envelope. Then I went out to the garage. My workshop. My sanctuary. I found a small, magnetic GPS tracker. I had bought it for the trailer, intending to use it for security on the road. Now, it would be used for justice. I activated it, linked it to the old smartphone I kept in my workshop. The screen glowed green, active. I walked out to the driveway. The trailer sat there, silent and imposing in the moonlight. The door was locked. Mark had the keys. But I knew how locks worked. I knew how things were put together. And I knew how to take them apart. I walked to the side of the trailer, near the external storage compartment, using a thin shim and a small screwdriver. I carefully manipulated the simple lock mechanism. It clicked open, easy. I climbed inside. The interior was dark. Moonlight illuminated the space. They had already loaded their suitcases. Beach chairs. A cooler filled with expensive wine. Their celebration. I walked to the front of the trailer, to the small console area, designed to look like a traditional glove compartment. I opened it. It was empty. I placed the manila envelope inside, pushing it to the back. A surprise gift for Mark. The evidence, the weapon. I closed the compartment, carefully climbed back out, locked the storage hatch. The bait was in place. I went back to the garage, found the GPS tracker. I attached it securely underneath the rear bumper of the trailer, hidden deep within the frame. They would never see it. But I would see them. I went back inside the house. I was exhausted, but my mind was racing. I didn't sleep. I sat in my armchair, waiting for the dawn, waiting for the storm to break. They arrived at 7 a.m. sharp. The sun was barely cresting the horizon. I watched from the window. Mark expertly backed his SUV up to the trailer hitch. Sarah was corralling the grandkids. Liam and Emma, bouncing with excitement, dressed in bright vacation clothes. Innocent pawns in Mark's game. Grandpa, Emma shouted when she saw me at the window. She waved enthusiastically. I waved back, my heart twisting painfully in my chest. They didn't know. They didn't know they were supposed to be dropping me off at a prison. Mark connected the hitch, the chains, the electrical harness, efficiently, smugly. He thought he was in control. He was about to lose everything. They came to the front door. I opened it. We're ready, Mark announced, beaming. He looked refreshed, energized by his victory. Do you have your bag packed, Arthur? He asked, glancing around the empty hallway. We don't have much room, so I hope it's small. We need to get going. The arrogance was staggering. I'm not going, I said calmly. Mark's smile faltered. He stared at me, confused, then annoyed. Now, Arthur, don't start this again, he sighed, exasperated. We discussed this. Golden Oaks is expecting you. We already paid the deposit. Don't be difficult. Then you better ask for a refund, I said. I'm staying in my house. My voice was steady. My hands were calm. I was in control now. Mark looked at Sarah, rolling his eyes. I don't have time for this. We have a long drive ahead. He turned back to me, his voice hardening, the mask slipping. If you refuse to come willingly, Arthur, I will call the authorities. I will have you declared mentally unstable. He was threatening me now, openly, in front of my daughter and grandchildren. I have Dr. Reed's support, he lied. Confidently. I will have you committed to a secure facility, not Golden Oaks. Don't test me. The mask was completely off now. The monster underneath exposed. Dad, please, Sarah pleaded, her eyes wide with fear. Fear of him. Just come with us. Don't make him angry. It's for the best. I looked at my daughter. Her eyes were red-rimmed, but her jaw was set. She was terrified of him. But she had made her choice. She chose his comfort over my freedom. Have a nice trip, Sarah, I said. My voice void of emotion, I started to close the door. Fine, Mark yelled, his face turning red with anger. Stay here. Root in this empty house for all I care. He stormed towards the SUV, yelling over his shoulder. But I swear, Arthur, when we get back, this house is being sold, and you will be moved out, whether you like it or not. He delivered his final threat, pointing a finger at me. We are your guardians now? Guardians? They thought they owned me. He turned and stormed back to the SUV. Sarah hesitated, looking at me with a mixture of fear, regret, and resentment. Then followed him, obedient. I watched as they loaded the kids into the SUV. I watched as Mark climbed into the driver's seat, slamming the door shut. I watched as he pulled away. My trailer, my freedom, my legacy. Trailing behind him, the driveway was empty. The silence descended again. But this time, it felt different. It felt like victory was close. I walked back into the living room, picked up the workshop smartphone. I opened the GPS tracking app. The small red dot was moving. Slowly, at first, navigating the neighborhood streets. Then faster, reaching the main road, leading to the highway. I waited. I brewed another cup of coffee. My phone rang. It was Robert. It's done, Arthur, Robert said. I spoke to Dr. Reed. She was appalled. She's sending over the affidavit now. Mark tried to bribe her to backdate a dementia diagnosis. The rot went deeper than I thought. And David Chen? I asked. Chen is cooperating, Robert said, a note of triumph in his voice. Mark defrauded him, forged documents, lost millions of Chen's money in high-risk investments. Chen is pressing charges. The SEC is involved now. Mark wasn't just greedy. He was a criminal, and he was desperate. He's facing serious jail time, Arthur, Robert confirmed. He needed your house money to cover the losses, to try and make a deal. It all made sense now. The urgency, the cruelty. It was time to bring it all down. 1 hour passed. The red dot was on the highway, moving at a steady 60 miles per hour. They were far from town now, surrounded by open country, isolated. It was time. I opened my messages, composed a new text to Mark. Enjoy the trip. You might want to check the glove compartment of the trailer. I hit send. The execution was set in motion. I watched the GPS tracker intently. The red dot continued to move for a few minutes. They were probably arguing. Mark was probably dismissing the text. Then, suddenly, the red dot swerved sharply to the side of the highway and stopped. Gotcha. My phone rang almost immediately. It was Mark. I answered it. The sound of rushing traffic filled the background. What is this? Mark screamed into the phone. His voice was frantic, bordering on hysterical. I could hear Sarah crying, the children asking what was wrong. The sound of his panic was music to my ears. Hello, Mark, I said calmly, sipping my coffee. It was still warm. I assume you found the envelope. You old bastard, Mark spat. You think this changes anything? A bunch of legal papers? I will tear them up. He was desperate, flailing, like a drowning man. You might want to read them first, I said. They are certified copies. Tearing them up won't change the facts. It's a bunch of legal nonsense, Mark roared. The deed to the house. The registration for the trailer. It means nothing. I have power of attorney. He still thought he held the winning hand. He was about to see the royal flush. Look closer, I instructed. Look at the names on those documents. Look at the dates. 2 years ago. There was a rustling sound. Mark shuffling the papers, his breathing ragged. You see, Mark, I continued, my voice measured and calm. I never trusted you. I saw your greed from the moment I met you. I paused, letting the words sink in. After Mary died, I took precautions to protect her legacy. The house, the trailer, the bank accounts, all my assets delivered the killing blow. They aren't in my name. What are you talking about? His voice trembled. Confusion, and the first hint of fear. They are in an irrevocable trust, I explained. The Mary Hayes Memorial Trust, and I am not the trustee. Sarah is, Mark said triumphantly, grasping at straws. Sarah is your daughter. She's the heir. She's the heir. She has control. He was wrong. Again, no, I said softly. She's the beneficiary. Eventually, when I die. But the trustee, the person who controls the assets, the only person who can authorize the sale of the house or the use of the funds. I paused for dramatic effect. Is my lawyer, Robert Jenkins. You've met him. He's very meticulous. The silence on the other end of the line was absolute. Mark understood. An irrevocable trust couldn't be changed, not even by me. The power of attorney was useless. He had no access to the money. He couldn't sell the house. He couldn't control my finances. He had zero leverage. He was powerless. You can't do that, Mark whispered, the realization crashing down on him. The weight of his failure. You can't cut me out. I already did, I said. 2 years ago, so you see, you have no authority to sell my house. And you certainly have no authority to put me in a retirement home against my will. I'll fight this in court, Mark roared, his bluster returning. I'll have you declared incompetent. I'll tell them you're crazy. You can try, I said, but the trust documents include a thorough competency evaluation from Dr. Reed, also dated 2 years ago, and updated just last week. I paused, and we have her affidavit stating you tried to bribe her to forge a dementia diagnosis. I smiled. I'm perfectly sound of mind. Checkmate. And Mark, I added, my voice hardening. I know about David Chen. I know about the fraud. I know the SEC's investigating you. The silence was deafening this time. The fear was palpable. You tried to steal my life to save yours, I said, my voice dripping with contempt. And you failed. Now, I continued, let's talk about the trailer. It's your trailer. Take it back. He was desperate to salvage something.
Anything.
No, I corrected him. It belongs to the trust. And you have taken it without permission from the trustee. I paused, letting the legal implications hang in the air. In legal terms, that's called theft. Grand theft auto, actually. Given the value of the truck and the trailer.
You gave me the keys,
he shrieked. I was under duress, I said calmly. You threatened me. You threatened to have me committed. And I have a witness. Sarah. I heard Sarah sobbing louder in the background. Mark, what have you done? She cried. You told me this was legal. You told me we were helping him. You lied to me. The lies were unraveling. The manipulation exposed. Shut up, Sarah. Shut up, Mark yelled. And then I heard it. The sharp sound of a slap, echoing through the phone. My blood ran cold. He had hit her. The game changed instantly. Mark, I said, my voice trembling with rage. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. My protective instincts surged. Nobody hurts my daughter. Nobody. Here's the situation, Mark, I said, my voice cold as steel. Robert has already filed a police report this morning. Officer Miller has the case. The truck and trailer have been reported stolen. The license plate numbers have been circulated. I paused, and I just sent Robert the audio of this phone call, including the sound of you hitting my daughter. The reality of the situation was finally hitting him. His perfect, cruel plan had evaporated. He was facing jail time for theft, for elder abuse, for assault, and for fraud. What do you want? Mark asked, his voice small. Defeated. I want my trailer back, I said, and I want you out of my life. I laid out the terms. You have 1 hour to return the truck and trailer to my driveway. If you do, I will ask Robert to drop the Grand Theft Auto charges. I paused. But the elder abuse charges and the assault charges, those are staying. I hate you, Mark hissed. I know, I said. I hung up the phone. I walked out onto the porch, sat in the rocking chair. Mary and I used to share. The neighborhood was quiet. The sun was warm on my face. Mrs. Petrov, my neighbor across the street, was watering her roses. She gave me a small, knowing nod. I felt a profound sense of loss. The realization that my daughter had betrayed me so completely, that her husband was abusive. It was a wound that would never fully heal. I had saved my home, my independence. But I had lost my family. Or maybe I was just starting to save it. About 50 minutes later, the truck pulled back into the driveway, the trailer rattling behind it. Mark got out. His face was pale, his eyes bloodshot and frantic. He looked like a cornered animal. Sarah climbed out of the passenger side. She had a red mark on her cheek. She was holding Emma's hand. Liam trailed behind, confused and scared. Mark unhitched the trailer with jerky, angry movements. He didn't look at me. He couldn't. He was ashamed and terrified. Sarah walked towards the porch, her eyes fixed on the ground. "Dad," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I didn't know. I'm so sorry. He told me you were sick. He told me the money was for your care." I looked at the mark on her cheek. The anger surged again. "He hit you." She flinched. "It's nothing. He was just stressed." She was still protecting him, still making excuses. The cycle of abuse. It's not nothing, Sarah," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "He's a bully and a thief." I stood up and walked towards her. "And he tried to destroy my life. He lied to you. He manipulated you." I hugged her tightly. She was stiff at first. Then she collapsed against me. She started to cry. Deep, racking sobs that shook her whole body. "It's okay, honey," I whispered, stroking her hair. "It's okay. You're safe now. You and the kids can stay here," I said, holding her close. "This is your home, but he is not welcome here anymore." I meant it. Mark finished unhitching the trailer. He stormed towards us. "Sarah, get in the SUV. We're leaving." His voice was commanding, demanding. Sarah pulled away from me, looked at him, her eyes wide with fear, but also something else. Defiance. "No, Mark," she said, her voice trembling but clear. "I'm staying. We're staying." Mark stared at her, stunned. He couldn't believe she was standing up to him. He thought he controlled her completely. "What did you say?" His voice was venomous. I said, "I'm staying," Sarah repeated, her voice stronger now. "It's over, Mark. I want a divorce, and I'm pressing charges." The words hung in the air. Final, irrevocable. Mark's face contorted with rage. "You ungrateful witch. After everything I've done for you." He raised his hand to strike her again. But I was ready. I stepped between them, grabbed his arm, twisted it behind his back. I may be 66, but 45 years of carpentry had given me a strength that surprised him. He yelped in pain. "Get out of my sight, Mark," I said, my voice low in danger. Just then, a police car pulled up to the curb. Officer Miller stepped out. Robert had called him. "Is there a problem here?" Officer Miller asked, his eyes scanning the scene. Mark's raised hand, Sarah's tear-streaked face, the red mark on her cheek. Mark froze. He looked at the officer, then at me, his eyes filled with hatred. He ripped his arm away. He stormed back to his SUV. Slammed the door. He reversed out of the driveway so fast that the tires squealed. He was gone. Officer Miller walked over to Sarah. "Are you all right, ma'am?" he asked gently. The storm was finally over. I stood there with Sarah and the grandchildren. I found the keys on the ground where Mark had thrown them. I walked over to the trailer. My trailer. I unlocked the door, stepped inside. The smell of new leather and pine sealant greeted me. It still smelled like freedom. The next few weeks were a blur, hard, painful, but necessary. Sarah filed for divorce, got a restraining order against Mark. Robert handled everything. Mark fought her every step of the way. He tried to paint himself as the victim, claimed I had manipulated Sarah against him. But the evidence was overwhelming. Dr. Reed's affidavit, the audio recording of the assault, the irrevocable trust, and then the SEC investigation went public. David Chen pressed charges. Mark was arrested, his assets frozen, his bail denied. He lost his job, his reputation, his family. He lost everything, because he underestimated the strength of an old carpenter. Sarah and the kids stayed with me. The house was noisy again, filled with the sounds of children laughing and playing. The silence was gone, replaced by life. Sarah started therapy. She was healing, slowly. The guilt was immense. But so was the relief. We started talking again. Really talking about Mary. About the past. About the future. It wasn't the retirement I had planned, but it was something better. It was a chance to rebuild my family, to protect the ones I loved, to heal the wounds that had festered for too long. One morning, a few months later, I woke up early. The sun was just rising, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. I walked outside, looked at the trailer sitting in the driveway. It needed a wash, but it still looked beautiful. Sarah joined me, holding 2 cups of coffee. She looked rested, peaceful. The fear was gone from her eyes. "Are you thinking about the road, Dad?" she asked softly. "I am," I admitted. "The dream is still there." "Then you should go," she said, smiling faintly. "We'll be fine here. The house is safe. We are safe. Thanks to you." I looked at her. Her eyes were clear, her face relaxed. She looked like the girl I remembered, the daughter I thought I had lost. "Maybe we could all go," I suggested. "Just for a short trip. The Grand Canyon." Mary always wanted to see the Grand Canyon. Sarah's eyes lit up. The kids would love that. I would love that. I looked at the trailer, then back at my daughter. I realized then that family isn't just about blood. It's about respect, loyalty, and love. And sometimes you have to fight for the ones you love, even when they betray you. Sometimes tearing things down is the only way to rebuild. I took the coffee from her hand, clinked my mug against hers. The open road was waiting. And this time, I wouldn't be traveling alone. Thanks for listening to my story. It taught me that you're never too old to fight for your freedom, and that sometimes the greatest betrayals can lead to the strongest bonds. Please rate this story in the comments. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means the world, because your time matters.